Rome wasn't built in a day. It grew from a small village to a mighty empire. The Romans were fighters and builders. As Rome grew, so did its love for spectacle. They enjoyed races and plays, but craved something wilder. This is how gladiatorial games began. The first games were small, part of funerals for important men. People fought to honor the dead, showing bravery and skill. These early games were simple but loved. The games got bigger and more frequent, becoming entertainment. The rich and powerful put on games to win favor. As Rome became an empire, the games grew even more. They became a big part of Roman life. The emperors used them to keep people happy. Bread and circuses, they said. Give people food and entertainment, and they won't rebel. The gladiatorial games were the biggest circus. The Romans chose to be gladiators. It was a dangerous job, but offered fame and maybe fortune. Gladiators came from all over the empire with different backgrounds and skills. Each type of gladiator had a special fighting style. They used different weapons and armor, making the fights more interesting. People had favorite types of gladiators and cheered for them. As time went on, they learned to use different weapons and practiced fighting moves over and over. The trainers were often old gladiators who knew all the tricks. They taught the new fighters how to survive in the arena. The training was hard, but made the gladiators tough. It gave them a chance to live. Life in the ludus wasn't all about fighting. Gladiators also learned other skills, like how to entertain the crowd. They practiced how to die in an exciting way. This was important because the audience wanted a good show. A gladiator who could entertain might be spared, even if he lost. Gladiators formed close bonds in the ludus, living and training together. They were like a family, but knew they might have to fight each other one day. The ludus prepared them for the arena, but also gave them a home and a purpose. The Colosseum is one of Rome's most famous buildings. It still stands today. But when it was built, it was something new. The Colosseum was huge, holding 50,000 people. It was a marvel of engineering. The Romans were proud of it. Building the Colosseum was a big job, taking years and thousands of workers. Many were slaves. The builders used stone, concrete and wood. They created clever systems for moving people in and out. There were 80 entrances, allowing crowds to fill the stadium quickly. The seating was arranged by rank, with rich people near the front and poor people at the top. The Colosseum had some amazing features, like a huge awning to protect people from sun and rain. Under the floor was a complex system of tunnels and rooms where gladiators and animals waited. There were lifts and trapdoors to bring fighters and scenery up to the arena floor. It was like a giant stage for deadly shows. The Colosseum wasn't just for gladiator fights. It was used for many types of events, like animal hunts and executions. Sometimes the arena was filled with water for mock sea battles. The Colosseum was a place of wonder and horror. It was the heart of Roman entertainment for centuries. Going to the games was a big event for Romans. People got excited, dressed in their best clothes and brought food and cushions. Everyone wanted to see the show. The games usually lasted all day, from morning until sunset. The day began with a parade. The gladiators marched into the arena, showing off their weapons and armor. The crowd cheered for their favorites. Then came some warm-up acts, like comedians or acrobats. There were often animal shows with trained animals doing tricks, and wild beasts fighting each other. The main event was the gladiator fights in the afternoon. Pairs of gladiators would fight each other with different weapons and styles. The crowd loved to see different types fight. The gladiators would salute the emperor before fighting. They said, "We who are about to die salute you." Then the battle began. The fights were violent and bloody, but they weren't always to the death. Many gladiators survived to fight again. When a gladiator was defeated, the crowd decided his fate. Thumbs up meant live, thumbs down meant die. The emperor usually went along with the crowd's wishes. If a gladiator fought well, he might be spared, even if he lost. The games were about more than just killing. They were about bravery, skill, and pleasing the crowd. Some gladiators became very famous. Their names were known all over Rome. One of the most famous was Spartacus. He wasn't just known for fighting, he led a slave rebellion. Spartacus and his followers fought against Rome for 2 years. They were finally defeated, but Spartacus became a legend. Another famous gladiator was Priscus. He fought against Verus. Their fight was so even and exciting that it became famous. Both men fought bravely and neither would give up. In the end, they both surrendered at the same time. The emperor was so impressed that he freed them both. Some gladiators were known for their special skills. Carpophorus was famous for fighting animals. Hermes was known for his speed. These gladiators were like sports stars today. People talked about them and admired them. The emperor played a big role in the games. He often sat in a special box in the best spot to see everything. The emperor would make important decisions, like if a gladiator lived or died. He could also give prizes to winners. The games were a chance for the emperor to show his power. He could be generous or cruel. The people watched to see what kind of ruler he was. Some emperors loved the games and spent a lot of money on them. Commodus even fought as a gladiator himself. The games were also a way for emperors to communicate with the people. The crowd could shout requests or complaints. Sometimes the emperor would respond. It was one of the few times ordinary people could speak directly to their ruler. This made the Colosseum an important political space. It wasn't just about entertainment, it was about power and public opinion. Not all emperors liked the games. Some thought they were too violent or expensive. Constantine, who became Christian, eventually banned gladiatorial games. The emperor's attitude towards the games could show what kind of Rome he wanted to create. The Colosseum wasn't just for gladiator fights. It hosted many other events. Animal hunts were very popular. Exotic animals from all over the empire were brought to Rome. Lions, tigers, bears, and even elephants were hunted in the arena. This was exciting for the crowd. Most Romans had never seen these animals before. The hunts showed Rome's power over nature and distant lands. Sometimes the Colosseum was used for public executions. Criminals were often killed in The gladiatorial games didn't last forever. They began to decline in the late Roman Empire. There were many reasons for this. One was the spread of Christianity. Many Christians opposed the games. They thought they were cruel and pagan. As more Romans became Christian, attitudes started to change. The games seemed less acceptable to some people. Another reason was cost. The games were very expensive to put on. As the Roman Empire faced more problems, it became harder to afford such lavish entertainment. Emperors had to spend money on armies and defences. The quality and frequency of games started to decrease. The last known gladiatorial fight in Rome was in 404 AD. The Colosseum was still used for other events, but its days as a gladiatorial arena were over. After the gladiatorial games ended, the Colosseum had a long and varied history. For centuries, it was neglected. Parts of it were used as housing or workshops. Some of its stone was taken for other buildings. Earthquakes damaged it. Plants grew in its cracks. The great arena became a ruin. But it was never forgotten. In the Middle Ages, people saw the Colosseum differently. Some thought it was a temple to the sun. Others said it was haunted by pagan ghosts. It became a place of mystery and legend. Later, it was used as a fortress by noble families. They fought each other for control of Rome. In more recent times, people started to value the Colosseum as history. Popes tried to preserve it. Archaeologists began to study it. The Colosseum became a major tourist attraction.